Viewer discretion is advised. Tom waited until Hannah was asleep before sneaking out of their camp. He slipped out from under the shared blankets slowly and carefully, so to not wake Hannah up. He checked the calendar again to make sure he hadn't missed her birthday. He crossed out the date just to make sure he wouldn't forget to do that later in daylight. He ventured out of the encampment and immediately saw a group of staff congregating just an aisle away. He couldn't take them on alone. He had seen what these things were capable of. Tom looked around and spotted a vacant stool. He picked it up and hurled it over the top of the gathered staff, and as it landed, it made a faint crashing sound that echoed down the aisle. The noise wouldn't rouse Hannah from her sleep. He figured that noises like this are common occurrences in this place. When the staff scurried towards where the stool landed, Tom hurriedly took off, but not before glancing back at Hannah. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you a tale from SCP Foundation SCP-3008, a perfectly normal, regular old IKEA. Tom watched from a distance as 3 staff walked by. It was unusual to see a group of them moving with purpose during the day, but not unheard of. He knew the god-awful things would ignore him while the lights were on, but that didn't make him feel comfortable about going anywhere near them. He had seen what they'd do when the lights were off. So he waited for them to pass, clutching the clock in his hands. The clock was a gift. It was Hannah's birthday tomorrow. Tom hadn't expected to find love in an endless IKEA filled with monsters, but he figured no one ever did. Sometimes he couldn't believe it had now been a year since that cursed and blessed day when he had gone shopping for shelves and ended up in this waking nightmare. He could still remember vividly how it all started. He had entered the store and something felt wrong. It was empty, like a failing retail store, yet everything appeared to be in place and fully stocked. He could see no one but the staff wandering around in the distance. Tom strolled past the aisles of furniture sets, cozy bedroom setups, and tables and chairs with crazy angles. He kept on walking. Each time he turned a corner, more aisles showed up. It was as if he was walking in circles. I swore I saw this clock set earlier. Something ain't right here. Tom looked around, made sure that no one could see him, and climbed up onto the shelf. He figured that if he could reach a vantage point, he might be able to pinpoint his location. And what he saw was an endless labyrinth of furniture displays and aisles that seemingly stretched on forever. He felt puny and dizzy. He slipped and fell from the shelf and in front of a staff, and that was when he saw Hannah. He remembered it in a strange blur, all in slow motion like some Hollywood movie cliche. The club swinging in, her dirty red hair flying wildly around her. Then she turned and looked straight at him, and the fierceness of her expression almost stopped his heart, her eyes ablaze with some internal force. And then the crunch of the staff's head as the club made contact, the rigidity of its head replaced by a disturbingly gelatinous quality as every bone within it shattered. Its featureless face turned towards him as if it was coming for him next, which it did, as it simply shrugged off her attack and got up. In that moment, he felt an intense mixture of confusion, horror, and admiration, all at the same time. "What are you doing? Run!" The staff began to walk towards Tom. Hannah gave it another smash that broke her club, then pulled Tom to his feet and ran, dragging him stumbling and terrified behind her. She brought him to the settlement that people trapped inside the store had built over the years. The whole thing had happened in about 3 seconds. He wondered how much of that memory his mind had embellished over the last year. But they met properly the following day, and the sparks were immediate. Every day, Hannah would repeatedly drum the rules into Tom. Don't stray too far from the marked zone. Learn the landmarks. Help out your fellow residents. Tom had never been a team player, but now he had to learn how to live with other people. It made him think that perhaps a hive mind isn't such a bad idea, especially since that's how the staff seemed to operate. They would rush their camp in mass with seemingly no self-preservation in mind, only the urge to destroy. The people cut them down easily enough. It happened regularly, every other night, so everyone was prepared for it. Knives from the cafeteria, lawnmower blades made into hatchets, fire axes, as well as walls with holes so they could stab out at the staff when they attacked. Hannah had even fashioned a functional crossbow from a furniture set and arrows from the remains of broken wooden chairs. She said she'd teach him one of these days. But for now, you can have it. You've been going on scavenge duty lately. An extra weapon wouldn't hurt. What about you? I'll find some way to make up for it. So today, a year later, he had found Hannah a clock. A simple clock with legible numerals on a clean white dial in true Bauhaus fashion. A simple clock which he risked his life for by going out of the explored zone. T'Jala? How the hell do you pronounce this thing? T'Jala? Whatever, I'm taking it. Getting gifts for someone was hard work when you live in a store where everything is free for the taking. But Hannah was always complaining about never knowing what time it was, especially in the dark of the early morning before the lights came back on, and so he decided that a clock would be the perfect gift. Suddenly, the lights went off, and he realized he had spent too much time avoiding the staff. He had strayed too far. Crap, this ain't good. In the dark, he lost all sense of direction, and it didn't help that he was in an unfamiliar section of the store. He looked at the clock. The lumined hands were pointing at the symmetrically pleasing 10:10 position. If only it doubled as a compass, Tom thought. Tom waited several more minutes for the staff to pass before continuing on his way back. For a moment, he considered taking them head on, but then he remembered Hannah's teaching. Never fight them alone, even if it seems doable. Why not? They die easily enough. You've seen how I killed one of them with a sharpened pole. Listen, we're fighting against them in their territory, and these things can come at you from angles you don't expect. Fight as a group, look out for each other. Otherwise, you'll end up like Jared. Poor Jared, Tom thought. According to Hannah, he had died because Hannah failed to defend him from a staff that broke through the shelf. Even though the people from the camp said that it wasn't Hannah's fault, it weighed heavily on her conscience. He had to make it back. He knew that if he didn't, Hannah would blame herself. All right, I can backtrack. Past the aisle of lamps, through the weird bed display section where all the beds were small squares, left at the giant hot dog sign, and then… His heart skipped a beat. He couldn't believe what he saw. The exit was in front of him, the only way to end this nightmare and make it back out into the real world outside. It suddenly occurred to him that he hadn't really been looking for a way out of here ever since he met Hannah, and he hadn't given much thought to what he would do should an opportunity present itself. But now it was here, right in front of him. From where he stood, it would take less than 5 seconds to reach the doors and pass through them. Yet his thoughts pinned him in place as he remembered the promise that he and Hannah made to each other. Hannah, if any of us finds the exit, promise me that you'll go through it. No, don't talk like that. We'll find the exit together and leave this place together, okay? It replayed in his head over and over while he stood there stupidly, staring at the exit, clutching the clock to his chest. All he had to do was to push past the door and all this would be over. Suddenly, a voice echoed out of the aisle behind him. The store is now closed. Please exit the building. Tom jumped as he looked and saw 2 staff with arms extended, walking quickly towards him. Another staff appeared in front of him, apparently out of nowhere, and attacked. He quickly turned around to shield the clock with his body. Oh, son of a… Tom dodged to the side and pulled down the shelf between himself and the staff, and ran. He sprinted through the dark aisles until he found yet another room set display and hid under the desk. He could still see the exit light from here. He could still make a run for it towards the door, but his mind was racked with indecision. He tried to think of a logical solution to his dilemma, but he could only weep. Suddenly, a bright light shone in his face. It was Hannah. She immediately turned it off to avoid attracting the staff. What are you doing here? Are you all right? What's with the clock? I thought you needed a way to tell the time, so this was meant to be a surprise. Hannah pulled him towards her, and they embraced each other silently. How did you find me? I followed the noise. I found the exit. He pointed at the door, past the collapsed shelf and a group of wondering staff. We have to make a run for it. You sure? We can wait until the lights… There's no time. More staff will be here soon and they'll find us. They got up and waited for a clear pathway towards the exit. They ran. Their sound of their footsteps drew the attention of the staff, and sure enough, they were on them within seconds. Hannah was running out of breath and her being injured only made it worse. She could feel herself slowing down. They were only halfway to the exit. Her legs gave out and she fell to the ground. A staff lunged towards her. Tom bashed it away with a broken bedpost. Go! Ugh. A staff grabbed at him and clawed at his body. Hannah grabbed the bedpost and smashed the staff's head. No, you promised that we'd leave together. And you promised me that you'd wait. Tom stared at Hannah's desperate face, and something inside him shifted. If only one of them could make it, it had to be her. Meeting Hannah had changed him. He had never had to care for other people, but after a year living with the trapped shoppers and Hannah, the lone wolf inside him had lost its selfishness. Now he was always there for other people, always there for her. They couldn't fight off all the staff, nor could they outrun them. And he figured it was about time Hannah get out of this hell. Tom shoved the clock into Hannah's arms and pushed her to the exit. Happy birthday, Hannah. Tom, no, no! A staff lunged at her but was pulled back by Tom. Despite his exhaustion, Tom kept swinging to fend off the incoming staff. Don't worry, I'll see you soon. He pushed Hannah through the door and slammed it shut. Though his eyes had adjusted to the dark, Tom's injury began to take a toll on him, and his dwindling stamina was slowing him down. Tom fended off several staff by maneuvering around the layout of the display, using his makeshift weapons and Hannah's crossbow, which broke after firing its last bolt. Then he saw smoke rising from afar, a sign of a nearby settlement. He had heard of other settlements just like their camp. Some of them would make fire to raise smoke beacons for any lost wanderer. Sure, it could be risky for the settlement as it would attract more staff, but it was the kind of selflessness that Tom had come to appreciate. On the other side of the door, it was quiet and vacant. Hannah used all her might to pull at the door, but it wouldn't budge. She could only fall to her knees and weep as the clock slowly disappeared. Hey, remember what we said about leaving together? Yeah, if you find the exit, go through it and wait for me, because I'll follow you and find you in the outside world, where we belong. Promise me you'll wait for me. I promise.